And I'll share with you what I think the demon of the world is. There was a time in my evolution that I was kind of an anti-pharmaceutical guy. I was an anti-big pharma guy. I don't think the big pharma is the problem anymore. I really don't. But I do think there is somebody that is a problem. It's big food. And there's one company called Monsanto that is maybe public enemy number one. Powerful, powerful company with billions and billions of dollars. You don't hear much about Monsanto anymore. They own companies like Kraft and Nabisco. And they control the food in this globe. And it's sad. We eat too much, and I call it crap. Too much caffeine, too much refined sugar, too much alcohol, too much processed food. Eliminate the crap from your diet will get better. What should I eat? You should have a wholesome diet. Whole grains in moderation, lots of fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, lean protein. If you want to take this real serious, get the book called The Mediterranean Diet, or get on the internet and Google it, download the information. It is a wonderful diet, a healthy diet, even allows alcohol in moderation in the form of red wine. A lot of fish. A lot of healthy oils, olives, artichokes. Some dairy. There's the Paleolithic diet, the caveman diet. You know, we evolved from being what we were initially gatherers. You know, there was a time when we didn't have McDonald's, you know, in mankind. And I know that it's hard to imagine. And there was no Burger King or Taco Bell. But, you know, one time, most of us can believe that we, you know, lived in caves, you know, 5 million years ago or whenever. And we didn't even hunt. We didn't have any meat. We ate berries and plants. That's what we ate for millions of years. Well, then man, you know, evolved to some extent. Well, I can take a stick and I can beat up an animal, or I can get a fish. Or then they got a bow and an arrow, and I can kill an animal, a bigger animal. So now we became gatherers and hunters. And for millions of years, we were hunters and gatherers. That's what we did. That's how generation to generation, that's how we lived. And then at some point came grains. Now, I know that many of you probably believe that gluten's the protein component of wheat, rye, and barley, is one of the key food groups because the government says you got to have your grains every day. But let me give you an analogy that will maybe drive the point home. If we were to think about the amount of time that man has been on this globe as an hour of time, however many millions of years we've been here, as 1 hour, how much time of that hour have we eaten wheat? How much? Is it a minute? Is it half an hour? Is it, you know, how much time? How much part of that hour has wheat been part of our diet? Any guess? Yeah. 1 second. That's how long wheat has been part of our diet. About 10,000 years. You say, well, that's a long time. Yeah, it is. 10,000 years to you and I is a long time. 10,000 years in the evolution of mankind is a drop in the bucket. It is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Avoid sugar, high fructose corn syrup, trans fats, reduce your dairy. Dairy is not a key food group. You know, and that's another thing. The dairy analogy goes like this. Think about all the mammalian species. If you're a mammal, you nurse your young. That's what mammals do. All mammals nurse their young. Okay. Find me another species on the planet that after they wean their young, because we all wean, you know, you might nurse your child, but at some point the child stops nursing, right? They start eating food. Cows do it. You know, they nurse the cows for a while. Another species on the planet that drinks milk after they wean the young, let alone another species' milk. I mean, what rational sense is there to that? There is none. But there's one reason that you do. The Dairy Association is a very powerful lobby. And they've spent billions of dollars convincing legislatures that milk is a key food group. And they give money to Cal Ripken to put a mustache on his face and plaster his face on a billboard and says milk is good because everybody loves Cal Ripken because he hits home runs. And he shows up at baseball games. Filter your water. You need to get, there's a lot of stuff in water. And we could talk a lot about that in detail. And reduce your alcohol. There are, like red wine, there's a place for that. And you can have a lot of these things in moderation. But we tend to overdo it as a society. We are a supersized country. We supersize everything in the United States. And portion size and portion consumption is another national crisis. Abraham Hoffer, one of my mentors, has said if a patient has been to 4 physicians, nutrition is probably the medical answer. Everyone I see has been to 4 physicians, maybe 14 sometimes. But boost your energy, improve your diet. If you're tired, look at your diet. All of you have raised your hand and said you're tired. Optimize nutrition. It's important to improve your mental health, your physical health, and your brain health. Food does matter. All right, the 4th step is create a healthy gastrointestinal tract. GI is gastrointestinal. Where does your GI tract start? Where do you think it starts? Yeah, it starts at your lips, and it ends at your rectum. Everything between the two is a GI tract. All of it is important, from one end to the other end. Fix your gut. This gut, not so good. So, if you have gut issues, you might have gut symptoms. They might be called constipation, diarrhea, bloating, indigestion, gastric reflux, IBS, cough, and phlegm. And I'll share with you a great story. It happened to me just an hour or two ago. I had a young lady with rheumatoid arthritis, and I hadn't seen her for about a year. And I tested her, and she had a gluten issue. She was sensitive to gluten. I said, listen, you really should give up the gluten. Well, she embraced that and did give up gluten. And I hadn't seen her back. She said, how are you feeling? I said, how are you doing? She goes, well, my arthritis, which is really what drove this whole discussion, is 75% better. I take much less medication. But she goes, what I didn't realize is the effect that it had on my digestion. I don't have gas, I don't bloat, I don't reflux anymore, just from giving up gluten grains. She goes, I had no idea. She goes, no one ever even thought about telling me to give up gluten. So it's not only do I feel better, I've lost some weight, and my joints hurt less. Well, they still hurt. She's got a crippling autoimmune disease. But it was what she really said. My stomach I have a bowel movement every day. I never had that happen before. My gas, my bloating, my indigestion all went away. I don't have to take the purple pill anymore. So anyway, any of these are all symptoms of stomach issues, even chronic cough. And what does the stomach do? That's part of the gastrointestinal tract. It makes mucus, digestive enzymes, hydrochloric acid to break down protein, gastrin and lipase. These are enzymes that help break down fat and aid the process of digestion. If you don't have a healthy stomach, you're not going to have healthy digestion. Well, one of the most commonly prescribed medications in this country are what are called proton pump inhibitors. And it's the purple pill. Nexium, Prilosec. There's Prevacid. Then there's the H2 blockers, Zantac, Pepcid. They're given. You can buy them over the counter now. And they're consumed like candy. Well, what do? They block the production of stomach acid. Well, stomach acid's important. And if you don't have these acids being produced, these enzymes being produced, you're not going to break down your food. So even if you eat good foods, you're not going to get the nutrients out of the foods. Is this beginning to make a little sense? The pancreas gland, that same gland that makes insulin, we talked about too much insulin causing acne and all those other issues, actually helps in the digestive process. It produces other digestive enzymes. So it produces insulin, the hormone, and digestive enzymes. So the pancreas is important. This is the pancreas right here. It's just right up against the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. The stomach would be here, the liver is here. Give you a little anatomical orientation. Now we can evaluate the stomach with certain blood tests. We can do a urine test called an organic acid test. We can measure nutrients to see if you're absorbing nutrients, like the SpectraCell test or NutriVal test. Those are tests that we do here. Or we can even look at a stool sample and look at the end product of digestion, your fecal material, and see what's in it. I know that sounds kind of disgusting, but there's actually a lot of value to looking at stool samples. Helps us really see what has happened from point A to point B. How much fat is in there? What bacteria is there? Good, bad, or indifferent? You know, what is the pH? There are all kinds of things. We can get the right testing and really learn a lot from the stool. How do you create a healthy GI tract? Well, organic food is better, less chemicals. Take time to chew. Remember, digestion starts in the mouth. And we tend to be rapid eaters. You know, we tend to be in a hurry. You know, so learn to sit down, put your fork down or your spoon down, teach your kids this. You know, get together as a family, have that family meal. That was a big part of a lot of our lives when we were kids. I think as a society we've moved away from that because we're busy. The kids got soccer, got band practice, you know, got to do this or that. So we don't have that family time. Probiotics, healthy bacteria. Digestive enzymes, cheap and easy to replace. Raw foods, a lot of great enzymes in your raw foods. More fiber. Getting those essential fatty acids and maybe even taking some hydrochloric acid. Those are things you can take and supplement with day to day. Very simple, very inexpensive. Step 5, avoid pharmaceuticals. Now, there is a place for prescription medications for many, many health problems. And I'm not going to beat up the industry, but this is a large political lobbying force. And I think you have to choose which prescriptions you take. The Federal Drug Administration is funded by the pharmaceutical industry, by and large. They get some money from the government through our taxes, but they receive a lot of funding directly from the pharmaceutical industry. To drive the point home, a company called Wyeth Pharmaceuticals produced a drug called Premarin. Maybe some of you took Premarin. Premarin was a hormone replacement, a synthetic hormone replacement, and it was felt to be safe. Now, this company had such arrogance. They said, listen, there's concern being raised that Premarin is causing health problems. And this was about the time that I came into practice. And I even early on in my practice, I could see people not doing well on Premarin, and I moved away from it. I moved to Estrace or some of the more bioidentical prescription forms of estrogen. So they commissioned a study called the Women's Health Initiative. And this was in early 2000, late 1990s. Tens of thousands of women who were put into different arms of the study. Some got hormones, some didn't. And they either got Premarin or Premarin with progesterone. Remember progesterone, the pregnancy hormone, they call that Prem-Pro, or there's one called Prem-Phase. After 4 years, the researchers who were collecting the data, they would see these women every 6 months, do blood tests. They all started calling in to the central place and said, listen, there's something wrong. The group that are on the hormones are developing these problems. And the group that's not, the placebo arm, they're not getting strokes and heart attacks and breast cancer and blood clots and even dementia. And when they pooled the data and looked at it, the FDA said, oh, stop. You cannot continue the study. It's ethically inappropriate. At that time, Premarin was the #1 drug prescribed in the United States. $1 billion drug. The Women's Health Initiative was published 2002. And by and large, most doctors just stopped using hormones. So they're dangerous. And they were right. Premarin was dangerous. Prem-Pro was dangerous. The hormones aren't dangerous, but the prescription drugs were. Now, wouldn't you think that doctors, this is a big deal in the medical world, would reassess what they're using, what they're prescribing? Now, at that point in time, Premarin was #1. Premarin is still top 10. Still a big drug. They lost a big chunk of market, but because these are bad things. You know, you don't want these things. I think the problem with Premarin, and probably more with Prem-Pro, was the Provera, the synthetic progesterone. It's called medroxyprogesterone. It's not even a progesterone. It's more of a Progestin. It's chemically very different from progesterone. It has a ton of side effects. If you go into the PDR, the physician desk reference, you'll see almost the crossbones because it is really contraindicated in pregnancy. This is the hormone that's supposed to mimic pregnancy. And it's bad. It's bad for the fetus. I tell people when they come in, they're on Lipitor, Prozac, Prilosec, Fosamax, Viagra. Do you have a deficiency of one of those drugs? Were you born with Lipitor circulating in your veins? Or Viagra, Prozac? Now, there may be a reason for those, and I'm making this a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But what conventional doctors don't do is they don't look for the reason for the problem. They have a pill for every ill. I came from that world. That's what I was taught. It takes a lot to get out of that world and to go further with your understanding of what really causes health issues. Most people will never do that. It's just a reality. I'd be happy at some point to talk offsite about my own path down that road. But, doctors have time constraints. The reimbursement system is messed up in this country, so they have to see more people. So one easy way to get you from the exam room to the checkout is to get you a prescription. Here you go, Mrs. Jones. Take this. Come back and see me in 3 months. But doctor, why do I have high cholesterol? It's your genes. Thank you very much. Get your Lipitor filled on the way out in the pharmacy downstairs. But doctor, is there a reason? What could I do about my high cholesterol? Eat less eggs. Take your Lipitor. Thank you very much. I'll see you in 3 months. Step 6, supplement your diet. It's impossible to get the nutrients you need without supplementing by and large. It is almost impossible. Why supplement? Well, we don't have very nutritious food anymore. We have poor storage and poor preparation. Our soil is depleted across the country. And actually, we eat food today from all over the globe. We're a global society. The lettuce you might have had for lunch at your fast food place may have came from China. You don't know. The bananas may have came from Brazil. You just don't know. Poor digestion. We don't chew. We don't have enough stomach acid. We skip meals. As we age, we need more nutrients. So supplements help in a lot of different ways. We talk a lot about vitamin deficiency. This is a quote out of the Journal of the American Medical Association, 2002. This is the gospel of conventional medicine. This is what doctors read every month. They should be reading if they're keeping up with their profession. This is a quote. Although the clinical syndromes of vitamin deficiencies are unusual in Western societies, the United States, suboptimal vitamin status is associated with many chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, that would be heart disease, cancer, obesity, and osteoporosis. The clincher is, this is what the Journal of the American Medical Association said, it is important for physicians to identify patients with poor nutrition or other reasons for increased vitamin needs. So what that means is if you have heart disease, cancer, you're overweight, you have osteoporosis, your doctor has been told to evaluate your nutrition to see if you have increased nutrient needs. Now, how many of you have got one of those health problems and have ever been asked about your nutrition or your vitamin or supplementation needs? It would be rare for a hand to go up. It really would. I didn't make this quote up. Even our government says that 80% of women and 70% of men consume less than 2/3 of the recommended daily allowance of one or more nutrients. We're going to learn more about that RDA in a minute. But our government knows we're not getting the nutrients we need for optimal health. And the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is the amount of a nutrient that is required daily to avoid a deficiency disease. Now, you might say, well, what's a deficiency disease? Well, if you don't get enough vitamin D, you get a condition called rickets. what Tiny Tim had. Most scholars believe that in the Christmas story. He probably had rickets. He ultimately died. Remember, he had the cane, walk with a limp. He was always happy. He had rickets. I've never seen a case of rickets. I wouldn't know a case of rickets if it walked in the door, literally. You know? If you don't get enough vitamin B1, you get something called beriberi. Believe me, I wouldn't have a clue what some of beriberi looked like. I mean, it would be, I would misdiagnose that 100 times out of 100. If you don't have enough vitamin C, you get scurvy. I mean, in 30 years, I've never seen a scurvy patient. We get enough of these nutrients to prevent a deficiency disease. But it is not the amount for optimal health. If you want to optimize your health, you look at the RDA as the ridiculously deficient amount. If you want to optimize your health, you need to take many times what the RDA is. And we'll help you understand that. Because we have a lot of nutrient robbers that take minerals and vitamins out of our body: alcohol, antacids, caffeine, nicotine, stress, pregnancy, hospitalization. All these things are nutrient robbers. And this is one of my heroes, Dr. Mark Hyman. He is on television quite a bit. He's a buddy of Dr. Oz and Oprah and such. He's family doctor on the East Coast, and he was asked, does everyone need to supplement? That was the question that was posed to him. His answer was no. If people eat wild, fresh, organic, non-genetically modified food grown in virgin material and nutrient-rich soils that has not been transported across vast distances and stored for months before being eaten, and work and live outside, breathe only fresh, unpolluted air, drink only pure, clean water, sleep 9 hours a day, move their bodies every day, and are free from chronic stressors and exposure to environmental toxins, then perhaps they might not need supplements. So if you're going to take supplements, take good supplements. Number one, take a high-quality multiple vitamin. People say, what should I take? Well, a good multivitamin will get you a long ways. What is a good vitamin? We'll talk about that. Vitamins are essential for proper growth, digestion, energy production, immune function, hormone production, detoxification, all these things we've talked about. What do vitamins do? They're cofactors or catalysts for enzymes. They're antioxidants. They get rid of the free radicals, and they act as pre-hormones. They help you make healthy hormones. You have to have them. You know, we talked a lot about hormones earlier in this talk. They're important. And one thing, you know, we kind of glossed over this too, but one of my heroes too is Suzanne Summers. Written a lot of great books about health and wellness. And one of the things that, if you have healthy hormones, you will have a sex drive. You'll have a libido. Doesn't mean you have to act on it. Doesn't mean you have to be some sort of a sex maniac. But having a sex drive is a sign of balanced hormones. It's a sign of health. We were put on this world to procreate. That is part of what we're destined to do. We don't do it for our entire lifetime, but keeping that ability and feeling that you want to procreate is a sign of health. Minerals. We need minerals for healthy teeth, healthy bones, healthy blood cells. For blood pressure, protein metabolism, energy production. Minerals are important. Zinc, selenium, and there again I could talk for hours about minerals. They're important. You have to have iron to make hemoglobin. Some nice young lady asked me about mineral deficiencies affecting their blood tonight at the beginning of the talk. Yes, iron. You have to have iron to make healthy blood cells. You got to have B12 and folic acid. Calcium, magnesium are important players in making us healthy. There are crucial minerals, the 7 biggies: calcium, iodine, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, selenium, and zinc. You need some of them every day. A good multi, you're going to get these every day. If you're not getting it from your food, you got to get it somewhere. If you don't have enough minerals, you get things like stunted growth, fragile bones, high blood pressure. There's that blood pressure thing again. You've heard about 10 different reasons your blood pressure can go up tonight. And if you have high blood pressure, I would bet none of them have been addressed by your conventional doctor. Heart arrhythmias, depression, anxiety, sore muscles and joints, digestive problems. Especially in women, magnesium messes up your sleep, Oftentimes, heart will skip some beats. Calcium, we all know that calcium is important. That's what the dairy industry has tried to propagate on us, because dairy has a lot of calcium. And dairy is important for our minerals and clotting of blood and nerve function and blood pressure, healthy bones, healthy teeth. You got to have it. But calcium is not understood well. What are bones made of? I tipped this slide already earlier. Are bones made of calcium or more than calcium? 14 mores, at least that. You don't hear about all these other minerals which are just as or more important than calcium in maintaining bone architecture. All you hear about is this one. Maybe it's what's called the calcium lie. My friend Dr. Robert Thompson wrote a book on this. It's on my website, referenced, and it'd be a good book for you to read, called The Calcium Lie, which says too much calcium contributes to problems like atherosclerosis, arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, kidney stones, gallstones, bone spurs, arthritis, hypertension, low thyroid, obesity, type 2 diabetes, excessive calcium intake. Now, all those women who are maybe in their 50s or 60s probably went through a period of time where their doctor said, now you got to take 1,500 milligrams of calcium. Now you're postmenopausal, 2,000 milligrams. Too much. There are other sources of calcium other than milk, soy, seafood, tofu, spinach, beans. Oatmeal is oftentimes fortified with it, cereal. Iodine, we talked about that earlier, critical for the brain development, important for thyroid hormone production. You know, we live in an area of the world called the Goiter Belt. Have you heard that term, the Goiter Belt? The goiter is an enlargement of your thyroid gland. It enlarges when we don't get enough iodine. So iodine is an important mineral. And the Goiter Belt is really across Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Iowa, Minnesota. The Mayo Clinic started by two brothers because of the outbreak of thyroid goiters in southern Minnesota. And it evolved to what it is today. But it was really a goiter clinic initially. Now, we don't see as much goiter now because we had supplemented a lot of iodine. That is changing, as this young lady talked about, because there are other cheaper options like bromine, which is almost carcinogenic. But iodine you can get. It's very inexpensive to get. I talked about the pregnancy thing. Add 10 points or 10 IQ points. Some of the vegetables, iodized salt. Iron, you got to have it for hemoglobin. There are sources in meat, eggs, fish, poultry. Get brittle hair and nails, anemia. Magnesium, very important for your muscles. Probably one of the most important minerals deficiency we see, especially in women. If you have trouble with sleeping and you're a female, take some magnesium at bedtime. Very simple to do. We'll talk about the forms in a minute. It can help you sleep, help your bowels, help you relax. Magnesium has a natural relaxation type component. It'll help your muscles relax. It'll help your brain relax. Zinc helps your immune system, protects against colds, flu, infections, activates your thyroid hormone. You got to have zinc. Deficiencies cause problems. Zinc is a very common deficient mineral. If you're getting sick a lot, especially in the winter, just add 20 to 40 milligrams of zinc a day to your program. A high-quality multivitamin should have all of these things in it. A number of vitamins, number of minerals, almost all of them do. But how do you know if it's good? Because you don't know a lot about the science or the quality of the ingredients. You have to find companies that you trust, or find someone who has had the time to research this. And we've done this, and other people have done that too. And there are a lot of good companies out there. But this is not a regulated industry, so there's a lot of not so good stuff out there. So if you're going to make a multivitamin, you should avoid any product that has iron. Supplemental iron can cause you more damage than good. Women get away with iron because they do something every month before menopause. They have a menstrual cycle. So they tend to run iron deficient. Men don't menstruate every month. They never need iron unless your doctor says you need iron. If the recommended dose is 1 a day, it's a problem. You cannot get all the nutrients in a form you can absorb in 1 pill a day. It is impossible. The 1 a day people are very clever marketers, though. They did focus groups, and the one thing the focus group said, we want it all in 1 pill a day. Okay, we'll call it one a day. It won't do you any good, but we'll sell a lot of them, and they do. It should say somewhere that it's chelated. Chelated means to bind, like a claw. Minerals have to be chelated to be absorbed. That's what allows them to go from the gut into the intestinal tract. So when they bind them, especially magnesium, they have to chelate it with something. Now they chelate with something called oxide. Magnesium oxide doesn't absorb. So you can put 50 milligrams in your mouth and 50 milligrams come out your rectum. You want magnesium, and it should say in the fine print, magnesium glycinate, magnesium taurate, magnesium citrate. It should have ATE at the end of it. That's what you want to look for. Now this is detailed stuff, I appreciate that. But you can take your label, take this slide when you get home, you can take your multivitamin and say, okay, what's the recommended dose? Is there iron? Is there oxide in the ingredient list? If you don't have those things, you're probably getting a reasonable product. You can take vitamin E and get in the, it should say D-alpha tocopherol, not the L-alpha tocopherol, and manganese. You don't need a lot of manganese. Recommendation number 2, get a high-quality omega-3 fatty acid. This is maybe the most important single nutrient you should take. If you can only pick one, if I can only pick one nutrient to take for the rest of my life for whatever reason, this is what I would pick. Omega-3s are the essential fatty acids. They're primarily in fish and healthy oils. They're essential because your body cannot make them. You have to get them in some way, shape, or form from your diet. Your body can make a lot of minerals, a lot of vitamins. We can make some of the B vitamins. Our gut will do that. We can make some of them. But we cannot make essential oils. They must come from our diet. And oftentimes you need a fairly significant high dose to get you where you need to be. The essential fatty acids reduce triglycerides. So if you have high triglycerides, it's almost malpractice not to have you on high levels of omega-3 fish oil. Yet I see people every day. I said, "Would your doctor say take fish oil?" No. I mean, it's like, what were they doing? I mean, this is basic medical school stuff. They can even get fish oil in a prescription. They call it Lovaza. It's $4 a pill. The Lovaza people, these are smart people. These people in the pharmaceutical industry, they're smart. They know how to make cash. So they take 10 cents of fish oil, call it Lovaza, and charge $4. What a deal. Only in America can you do this stuff, But and they can get it. I mean, people should get. I don't care if they take Lovaza. Their insurance pays their $20 copay. That's fine. I don't care. But it reduces cancer. Does a lot of good stuff. The omega-3s help you with heart disease, depression, cancer. You can see the list there. All stuff you don't want. You don't want this stuff. Nutrients can help you with energy. B vitamins, magnesium, manganese, CoQ10. All of you said you were tired. Maybe you need the right nutrients. A lot of these you'll get in a multi, but maybe you try some CoQ10, alpha lipoic acid. If you have metabolic syndrome, that insulin thing we talked about with the acne and too much insulin, you've got to have nutrients to metabolize insulin and to allow the key to fit into the lock easily and to work. If you don't have the nutrients, it will not work. Cinnamon, chromium, zinc, selenium, alpha lipoic acid. If you're struggling to lose weight, you have to have nutrients to lose weight. So if you're not getting them from your diet, maybe you got to look at supplementing. Those are some of the nutrients that help support weight loss. Vitamin D. Vitamin D really isn't a vitamin at all. It's a hormone. It's poorly named. It got coined vitamin D before we understood really what it was or what it did. It should be called hormone D because it's nothing like any other vitamin. You have to have sun exposure to your skin to metabolize vitamin D. It's then converted in the liver and in the kidneys. And there's not a lot of vitamin D in our diet. Salmon, mackerel, tuna, cod liver oil, egg yolk, fortified milk and cereal. We don't get a lot of vitamin D in our diet, so we tend to be vitamin D deficient, especially in the part of the country where we don't see the sun, e.g. Michigan. Lansing, the second cloudiest major city in the country behind Seattle. Good old Lansing, Michigan. So vitamin D deficiency, osteoporosis. So you hear a lot about calcium in osteoporosis. You should be hearing about vitamin D. Vitamin D is what you need if your bones are thinning, not calcium. Ricketts, never saw that. And what vitamin D does, it helps calcium get absorbed. So if you don't have enough vitamin D, it doesn't matter how much calcium you take, you're going to cause problems. You want the vitamin D so you can absorb the calcium. Helps with the thyroid, reduces cancers, heart disease. One startling statistic I heard is that if we were to add 1,000 IUs of vitamin D, you're going to learn about, I'm tipping another slide, but 1,000 maybe is not enough. But if we add 1,000 IUs of vitamin D to everyone's diet, we would reduce the incidence of cancer, all-cause cancer, by 1/3 within one generation, just by adding 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. You know, I mean, things are so messed up in Washington about this Obamacare stuff. I mean, no one talks about what can we do to actually drive health care costs down. What can we do as a country to drive how many people get sick? If you don't get sick, you don't have to spend dollars on health care, right? If you're not sick, you're not in the emergency room. You're not sick, you're not going to the doctor as much. This is not hard stuff. 1,000 IUs of vitamin D, pennies a day. Not even a penny. For $3.65 a year per person in this country. Reduce all-cause cancer deaths within one generation by 33%. That's a startling statistic. When you look at the average cost of the diagnosis of cancer, average, is $750,000 is spent from the time cancer is diagnosed until death or remission. $750,000 on everybody you've seen that's been diagnosed with cancer. Okay, how much vitamin D? I tipped you a little bit on this, but 2, 4,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, I don't care. Depends on how much and why I am taking it. What do you think? What's the answer? How much? 10? Okay. Anybody else want to guess? 2? That's what I figured. The answer is it depends. It really depends what you're trying to do. If you're a healthy person in the northern climate like Michigan, you can safely take 2,000 per 100 pounds of body weight. So if you weigh 150 pounds, 3,000, 200 pounds, 4,000, 250, 5,000, you can do that amount safely. If you have cancer or want an edge on cancer, you can go as high as 5,000 per 100 pounds without any problems. Really, the answer is you should guide your replacement by your blood test. This test is an important test. I know probably you've been to the doctor, you've had your blood sugar checked, your blood cholesterol checked, your blood pressure checked. I can make a convincing argument that the most important number you should have checked is this. Because knowing this number can markedly change your chance of getting sick. You should know your number. It's a simple blood test. Even if you had to pay cash, it's about $40 for this test. Your insurance will cover it almost always. You want that blood level to be 50 to 80, maybe 50 to 100. Now, routinely, if you're not taking a vitamin now or taking vitamin D, I would put money on it that I could draw your blood, and your level would be under 30, probably under 20, maybe in the teens or even below 10. That's where people in Michigan are who don't supplement at all. They are in the teens or the single digits or the 20s. Now, what I was taught by one of the great vitamin D researchers, Dr. Michael Hollick, who I like Hollick because he's a rebel, and they kicked him out of Harvard because he was telling him, he said, vitamin D, we got to take more vitamin D. They said, Michael, you're a quack, you're a nut, you're a fruitcake. And they fired him. John Hopkins hired him. 10 years later, he is the world expert in vitamin D levels. He is the guru. Everything he prophesized about 10 years before came to be true. And what Hollick told me, this is several years ago, at a conference, was here's the way vitamin D works. You have to take enough to do any good. I said, well, how much is enough? He goes, my research shows that if your level is 50.1, it does some good. If it's 49.9, it does nothing. Now remember, I just told you your levels are going to be 25, 30. You're nowhere near 50. I had a lady today, her level was 47.7. She was taking 5,000 IUs a day. Little skinny thing. Her level was only 47, taking 5,000 a day. She weighed 100 pounds, 110 pounds. That's way more than I recommended. She needs to take more. 47 is not enough. Got to get above 50. You can take too much vitamin D because it's fat soluble. It accumulates. Toxic levels over 200, we think. We don't really know. It's hard to get to 200. I take a lot of vitamin D. My level runs about 120. That's higher, what would be considered toxic. But I have initials after my name that allow certain discretions. I can do that crap to me, you know. But, and I have patients that run that level. And we talk with them. I say, listen, you know, if you go to your primary care doctor, he's going to tell you to cut back in the vitamin D. You got to make a choice. You know, I think it's safe to take that amount. I've got a young lady with multiple sclerosis. Her levels run about 300 to 350. You know, we experimented. At a level of 300, she can get out of her wheelchair and walk with a crutch. If her level gets down to about 200, she can't. Her doctor freaks every time she goes in. You got to take less. She takes 50,000 tablets, 50,000 once a week, 2 of those every day. That's what she says, 100,000 IUs a day. You shouldn't do that. But this poor lady, I mean, she said, what do I do, Dr. Wycoff? I said, take the 100,000 units. You know, because she goes, takes it, I can walk. So what do you tell her? Don't walk? You know? Prostate cancer, number of supplements, and I'm going to go through some of this pretty quick. I've exceeded my 2-hour limit here. But all this information is there. Breast cancer, certain supplements that can help. You know, find someone that can help you if you've got a family history of breast cancer. If you had reoccurrence, there are supplements that can help. You know, the question always comes out, how do I determine if you got a deficiency? Do a test. Do the right test. We work with a company called SpectraCell, and they do what's called a functional intracellular analysis. It actually measures the number of amounts of 33 key nutrients inside the white blood cells. It actually gives you a number. And you can say, okay, I'm taking enough of this, or I'm not taking enough of that. So if you want to pinpoint where you're at, this can be the next step. Because what was, I guess I don't have the slide, with SpectraCell every year publishes a summary. They do tens of thousands of tests. Even people that are taking multivitamins, 39% of them that were taking a multivitamin were deficient in 1 or more nutrients when they did the test. So even taking a multivitamin didn't get almost 4 out of 10 people where they wanted to be. We like companies like Metagenics. I think they're a quality company. There are other good companies out there. We work with orthomolecular and such, but Metagenics, I think it's just light years ahead of everyone else. Their research and development is higher than any other company. The stuff they're talking about now, or excuse me, the stuff they talked about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, is just beginning to be talked about in mainstream medicine today. Metagenics talked about it in the 80s. So get moving, get some exercise. You know, it's important. You do have to exercise. You should move your body every day, like Dr. Hyman said. A lot of ways you can do that. You know, yoga's fine. You can walk. You can do strength training, weights, swimming, dancing. You know, a lot of ways to get exercise, but you need to move your body. It's important. And you don't have to exercise on the days you don't eat. I mean, you know, if you don't want to exercise today, just don't eat. You know, or only exercise on the days that end with Y. The rest you can skip. So get some rest. You know, control your sleep. Look at cortisol. Sleep hygiene is something we don't spend a lot of time with, but really your bedroom should become a sanctuary, a place where you can relax so there can be no distractions. It should be allergy safe. If you have allergies, learn about how you can allergy-proof your bedroom. There's some very inexpensive ways you can do that. You know, I have terrible allergies, so I have hardwood floors in my bedroom. I tore up the carpet and I put down hardwood floors. Big change. I have allergy covers on my pillow and my mattress. I have a HEPA filter that runs 24/7. You can do those things. Your room should be black at night because you will not make melatonin if there's as much light as one candle in your room. Now, most of you have on your bedstand probably that big clock radio with those big red or blue letters, right? That's too much light. Now, I have one too. I throw a black towel over mine every night so that I don't see that light. So dark curtains, closed doors. Some people like those night lights on. They don't help you produce melatonin. Because what happens at night, your eyes open just a little bit. Your eyes are a muscle, right? You don't think about that, but if you ever watch someone sleep, their eyes will open. Light goes into the brain. Melatonin production stops. And that's some sense. You've already seen these. You wear those little night black goggle things. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that way you don't have that light going into your eyes. You do that too. Get a routine. I really think routine's important. 7 to 9 hours sleep, really 8 or 9 minimum. Melatonin, easy to try and supplement. Benasom and magglycinate. That's your melatonin is the Benasom product. Magglycinate is our product. That's my sleep cocktail. Safe and effective, pennies a day. The future of medicine is now. In the next 20 years, 80% of everything you know will be new. How many of you would have thought that that little thing that you're holding in your right hand there would control your life like it does 20 years ago? Right? Can't live without it. Can't function without a cell phone. Got to have it. It's your computer. Kids got to have it. 20 years ago, we didn't know what a cell phone was. I mean, we didn't have them. Imagine, just think about that. In 20 years, how our dependence on technology has changed. Take the steps to hormonal health. Find someone who can help you, listen to you, dedicated to improving your health, maybe using bioidentical hormones if needed. I had the privilege of broadcasting across the state of Michigan every Saturday morning. How many of you have heard me on the radio? Some of you heard me. Thank you so much for listening. I do appreciate it very much, and I invite you to join me any Saturday from 9 to 11. We broadcast across the state. Our flagship station is WJIM AM, 1240 AM in Lansing. But we're heard in Saginaw, Grand Rapids, Mount Pleasant, up north. And oftentimes we have some very interesting guests that come on. Dr. Tushar Chi is going to be on here in a couple weeks, coming back to East Lansing. And you're welcome to call in with any questions that you have. So plan to join me. Some books if you like to read. These are all on my website too. Dr. Hotze's book. I'm going to give away my last copy of these. I got to get more. Hormones, Health, and Happiness. Dr. Hotze was my mentor. Hyman's written a bunch of books. The Ultra Mind Solution. Suzanne Summers. So some ideas, some stuff. Margaret Richards, really big into exercise. Good reading. So hormones and wrap up. They're not difficult. Take some effort. Rewards are tremendous. Start your journey. Take the first step. Take charge of your life. Take charge of your hormonal health.